The Small Business Big Marketing Show happens because of Key Person of Influence, a 40-week accelerator program designed to make you more visible, more valuable, and connected in your industry. Grab a free hard copy of their New York Times bestseller over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. And we're also made possible by Web Central, creators of beautifully effective websites for small businesses. Grab an exclusive listener deal over at webcentral.com.au/ you guessed it, Timbo. Casting calls, speed dating sessions, a customer service ideology affectionately called the love. These are just some of the ways today's guest has built an incredibly strong culture in their business. And we all need a bit of culture.
I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. That would be the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. But you, so much more importantly, you're a motivated business owner and you are ready to crank out some highly effective marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire that it absolutely deserves. In fact, it demands to be. Big show today, as per usual. Ant Morell is my guest. He's the founder of Bounce, an indoor trampolining playground that's already in 8 countries after just a handful of years. Had some extraordinary growth and he's built an extraordinary culture. We'll cover that shortly. I tackle a question from a listener who's wanting to be a breath of fresh air in a stuffy old industry. Like that. I got some feedback from another listener who runs a third generation, 66-year-old family business. And we revisit an old episode in which Mia Friedman takes us inside the Mamma Mia empire. Boy, oh boy, has that gone from strength to strength. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. All right, just a quick reminder that it is not too late to book a seat on my next business outsourcing tour to the Philippines that is happening in late November 2016. This is the third one I've taken, and I've got to tell you, it is 3 days full of fun and education. And it's all about helping you create more freedom in your business. You can find all the details over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/tour. Now, allow me to introduce you to Ant Morell, who is the founder of Bounce, which is an amazing indoor trampolining playground for people of all ages that I've got to tell you has experienced some extraordinary growth in its first few years, in first 4 years, actually. And a big reason for this is due to the amazing culture Ant and his team have created. You're going to learn a lot about that very shortly. Now, to fully understand how they've done this, you'll need a basic understanding of a Melbourne-based charity. It's not so much a charity, a not-for-profit organisation called Reid, because that's where I met Ant for the first time about 10 years ago. Now, Reid had a really big impact on my life and on Ant's, as he utilised a lot of what he learnt at Reid to build the Bounce brand philosophy and culture. So here's the thing. Reid is a wonderful not-for-profit that's focused on helping young people at risk find their passion in life. And it's based on a concept called the hero's journey, which focuses on how we as humans will only find true happiness in life when we acknowledge just how good each of us are and that we all have the right to put our best self forward in whatever we choose to do in life. Imagine if we'd learnt that at school way back then, hey? Wouldn't that have been amazing? So back to Bounce. Now, whilst Bounce in its physical form is simply a room full of trampolines, in its emotional form, so much more importantly, its brand, Bounce is all about personal empowerment, both for its staff and its customers. So this will make more sense as we get into the interview, but I would suggest, team, having pen and paper at the ready, because Ant covers how to build a meaningful business culture that's resulted in some extraordinary growth. Wait to hear the numbers later in the interview. You're going to hear about tips on how to attract and retain great people and ideas around creating unforgettable customer experiences. We talk about innovation. Oh boy, there is gold in this interview, I promise you. I started off by asking Ant to explain what we'd be confronted by when walking into Bounce for the first time.
It depends which venue, but if they go to one of the original venues, we've kind of got the current and then the old school. So originally, wall-to-wall trampolines, giant warehouse, roughly the size of, say, 6 or 8 tennis courts, trampolines on the walls, on the diagonal, and then all over the floors. So it's really a place where gravity disappears and is replaced by sponge and spring and just people flying through the airs of all ages.
Sounds like a lot of fun. So that's the physical nature of Bounce, but I know, having spoken to you previously, you put a whole lot more effort into creating the brand, the philosophy, the culture. Would that be fair to say?
That's right. And I guess when we opened the first venue, we realised we'd stumbled across something quite special that we needed to bottle almost. Yeah, we knew we had pre-thought part of the formula, but there was something else at play. We had lines out the door for months. People were taking their kids out of school to go there. We had sort of sporting athletes there. We had mums with prams there, and we had school groups in buses and everything in between.
How good's that?
It was good.
How far into launching is that happening? Like weeks?
We had a friends and family night that was pretty raucous, and then the next day we had lines out the door, and that continued for, it started day one and continued for quite some time. And we had to sort of pinch ourselves and work out, what is the formula here and how do we replicate it?
Well, how did you do that? We all want to know how to bottle formulas.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we probably did was we dodged a bullet right at the start where I guess like most people, we thought of it as a business. It was a business that was going to make money, and that was probably our primary thought. We'd seen a similar proven concept in the US. As we started to look at it as something that was, it was action, it was sport, it was engaging in challenge in a world where things had become a little bit serious and maybe over-policed, and it was something that, if done right, could be for everybody, and we started to see it as a bit of a liberator for customers of all ages and stages, a bit of a liberator for ourselves, sort of caught up in corporate arthritis and halfway through our lives. That. And then, really importantly, a bit of a liberator for young people getting their first job, where a lot of people wanted to be involved in something that was like some of their hobbies, inspiring and
Am I right in saying that early on, that when you realised that you were onto something special with Bounce, that you went away with your original team, staff?
That's right. Yeah, partners? We grabbed the founders, sort of the executive, who were a pretty small team at that stage, and we also grabbed all of the guys and girls that we had just hired to run that first venue, and they were typically 18, 19, 20, sporty, full of energy, probably wanted to be, they were people who really wanted to be actors and musicians and gymnasts and go to the Commonwealth Games or be extreme sports people. So we had a lot of skiers and snowboarders. We'd hired half the circus school.
So you took all these guys away, right? And what was the format of that?
I guess the headline question was, what's going on here? What is it that is resonating with us? What's the magic of this union we have amongst ourselves, and why is it resonating so much with our clients, our customers, and how could we make sure that it forevermore is imprinted in our DNA and that we use it as a reference for all of our growth decisions and just understand it a little bit.
So many businesses would go away and go, oh, gee, guys, what are we doing wrong? What can we be doing better? You've gone away going, what if we touched on that so right, and how can we do more of it?
That's right. That's right, and we told a story right at the start of that day, which was interesting, which then helped us think about that question. There was a girl who I grew up with who was now a mum of twins, these high octane young boys, and she had a husband full of energy. They were in their early 40s, and she told me this story that she'd been to Bounce right at the start with her husband, and the kids were out playing and having a ball, and then her husband came up to her and said, maybe we should have a go, and she resisted at first, and then off they went, husband, wife, kids, and they just went nuts for a couple of hours in the end. Yeah. And she said it really unlocked something in her, and she only really understood how powerful that was when she got to school that week to pick up the kids, and she was standing around with the mums, holding the bags, waiting for stuff. And through the sort of mist, she spotted the monkey bars, dropped the bags, and ran over and joined the kids and just unleashed something that had been triggered by a visit to Bounce, which was, to get amongst it again. And
Great story.
And we realised that we were doing that for pretty much anyone, whether they were 4 or 54, whether they were a class of school kids looking to do something that was inclusive and but also allowed people to do something that stretched them and special, but it was inclusive, inspiring, and about participation, not competition.
I think there's a really interesting learning for everyone listening to this is that look out for customer stories. That customer story is an amazing one. It enabled you to launch your first, Bounce weekend getaway to your staff. I mean, it's a very powerful story, but I think we all need to be looking out for customer stories more often.
And it distilled, so we then told more stories, and we take storytelling, folklore, mythology, rituals, principles really seriously. And the first, I guess we distilled that idea around what we stand for into, just a phrase, free spirits unleashed. So Bounce is about unleashing the free spirit. We've since really
Is that a tagline, or is that just an internal kind of positioning that your staff have?
Yeah, it's more an internal descriptor of the DNA of the place.
Free spirits unleashed.
And if you play that out for a customer, that is in a world where you're kind of doing serious things, you're at school or at work, or you're a bit self-conscious and all that sort of stuff. You need to have 7 drinks before you get on the dance floor at a party and all those sorts of things. 7 or 17 maybe. But it was saying what we need to do with our staff experience is help people just be themselves and relax and treat this as a place where they are comfortable, just being themselves. So that idea that it's a very proactive, hosted, nurtured experience. When you walk through the door, something has to be unlocked in you that you feel like participating. You don't care about what you look like, and really importantly that you can do that with all sorts of ages and stages. So
so this is interesting. So being yourself, identifying that as almost a value proposition for not only your customers but your staff. This is really interesting how you're building a culture not just for staff or customers, but both. That being yourself thing, Ant, I just want to touch on it. I mentioned Reach in my intro to you, the charity that you and I met at and worked within. What was it inside the Reach philosophy that you've completely embedded into the Bounce philosophy and culture? Is there one thing?
Yeah, I think probably at the time it was a bit subconscious, but certainly the thing that knocks you around when you go into Reach is you've got all these guys who are in their late teens, early 20s, but they're very, very centered and they're very balanced and they're very real, and they're really powerful in the no crap, I guess, and the way they engage with each other and the way they know themselves. So they've been on they've kind of been on a bit of a journey.
They've been on the hero's journey.
Exactly. Huh? On the other side of that, they're really robust as to who they are. So all of the mess is out of the way. And what it means is they're very easy to deal with. They're friendly, but they're not overly sort of hyped up. They're full of energy, enthusiasm, and there's something just very potent and real about the way they make you feel. So I guess that idea that if you can help someone be comfortable with who they are and then allow them to be who they are in a working environment, then they'll be brilliant at being themselves, because that's the only thing I guess you can be very good at is the best version of yourself. And then they'll be really good at dealing with all sorts of different other people because they kind of got their own ego and garbage out of the way. So that's what we have I guess, a similarity with Reach, that we really value that idea, hugely, and we make it a central tenet of our, not only our employment sort of proposition, our customer service ideology, but of our whole brand, the way we communicate with the outside world and the way we are as a business.
Let's I love that. I mean, boy, oh boy, anyone listening who is thinking, wow, this Reach place is amazing, I encourage you to check it out, and I'll put a link to their website in the show notes. And if you've got teenage kids, I encourage you to book them into a Reach course. I think that if you're in Victoria, they're not national. The customer service ideology, let's we're at a fork in the road now. Let's talk customer, and then let's talk staff culture, right? Because they're not mutually exclusive, but the customer service ideology, you have a name for it?
Yeah, we call it the love. Because
I imagine this big old tome of a book called The Love that I open up, and there's magic in there.
You get a copy of the Tribal Bible, and in it is the big ideas of the business. So it talks about what Free Spirits Unleashed actually means. It talks about the fact that you've joined the bounce free jumping revolution, which is about kind of helping inspire people to forget the serious stuff for a while and just celebrate energy, adventure, and fun. It talks about the idea of, at Bounce, we think of ourselves as a tribe that kind of communicates a certain way and looks after each other and celebrates certain ideas. But it also talks about the fact that the customer, no matter what age or stage they are or what their own definition of a free jumping outing is, that they are part of that tribe as well. And so the love is kind of all about human connection, again, picking up that idea. So for a customer, that's about reading people's energy, eye contact, conversations. Have you been here before? It's about reading whether there's one kid in the group who feels a bit out of it. Some people need to be encouraged to risk more, and others need to be absolutely discouraged from risking more. Yeah. So it's about, I guess it's about absolute truth. And it's the universal motivator of almost all things. Everybody wants it. It's hard to define. It's hard to bottle. We distract ourselves accumulating other things, but most people want to feel, a certain set of feelings and connection ideas that, is called the love, basically. And we want to have it as central to our customer service experience.
And so that is a document or a little booklet that a new staff member gets. Are they inducted in any other way?
Yeah, so I guess
it sounds like you have some kind of blood cutting ceremony where you gather around a fire and chant for 24 hours.
Almost. And I guess another thing is a bit of self-confidence as a business to say, some of these things might make your skin crawl a bit, but they're only really because, authentic connection is rare, and it makes you a bit queasy because it's awkward because we're used to having our masks on and our barriers up. So well before, I guess, we're inducting people around, the tribal beliefs of Bounce or delivering the customer experience of the love and unleashing their free spirit, it is, I guess, finding a free spirit in the first place. We've got a very developmental culture. We've spent a lot of time training and talking and celebrating certain things and encouraging certain things. But ultimately, we have to find someone who's predisposed on that journey in the first place. So our recruitment drives, they're more like an audition for The Voice or the X Factor, where we tend to try and get 1,000 people to a casting call to pick maybe 100, and that's a very special and carefully managed exercise because the brand's ideas and ideology is very clear. And you've got to have people, particularly when you're now going abroad, which we are all over the world, who can carry that off. And ultimately, they need to believe in it in the first place.
Let's unpack that one because you're in 7 or 8 countries around the place, correct?
That's right, yeah.
So you've got these recruitment drives. These are big numbers. When you go into a new country or a new state,
in Australia, you aim to get 1,000 people applying to come along. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm guessing what you're doing.
That's right.
To come along to a day in which they do what? Get interviewed. You can't interview 1,000 people in a day.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you can't if you're going to read their CV and let them go on their their big story that they think you want to hear about how they've liaised with key stakeholders and all this other sort of corporate jabberwocky. What we really want to do is find out who they are, what sort of a person they are, and if they're if they've got that predisposition to connection, inclusiveness, friendliness, and that they kind of know who they are and they're on that journey, then we just want to grab them and tell them what it is to deliver the Bounce experience, and then they should be okay from there. So we take that really seriously. We send a little troupe of characters who really embody the beliefs of the brand. We're conscious of the fact that we're really, we're establishing a movement and a subculture in a different territory or country where we're going. So we have a principle which I think applies to kind of any type of person or any type of brand is, it takes one to know one. So we say to our partners when we're getting started, we've already selected them based on, in part, who they are, not just what they can do. And then we'll send 5 or 6 of our best, most representative, young characters, and they'll basically do a speed date with, over a course of a day with people from that local market, and they'll just be looking for, they'll ask simple questions. What did you do on the weekend? What are you passionate about? What are you angry about? What do you think's exciting about the world?
So you're sending people from home office, from headquarters, or some good people in your existing Bounce organisation here over there. They identify like-minded individuals, and you just perpetuate this idea of tribe and this honesty that the Bounce brand seems to have.
That's right. So I guess right back to the very core, we spend a bunch of free spirits who are connected to who they are, who like connecting to other people, who kind of embody the idea that when someone comes through the door, they're there to have fun, they're there to kind of exercise, they're there to unlock some form of hidden dream of having a good time at Bounce. So we send them, and they kind of they spot that chemistry and attributes in another person. They don't get it always right, but I guess when you have huge numbers like that, we drive the huge numbers because you can afford to be a bit fussy.
Yeah, totally.
They get a bit, if you look at a video or you sit in on one of the casting calls, you end up with people dancing and doing flips down the hallway, and it's not. But of course, it's not always just the most extroverted character you're after.
You want a mix.
That person can sometimes be more trouble than it's worth. So it's just you're looking for a bit of truth in another person.
How do you actually get 1,000 people to a casting call?
Well, our job ad post is kind of provocative in itself. So we usually, if we're coming to a market, so we're opening in Sweden in a couple of weeks. So by the time we've found a site, we're building and all that sort of stuff, we've usually got an anticipation in the market. That means we've got a bit of a social media following. So we'll have several thousand Facebook fans, and we'll have a bit of a story bubbling away in the community, and we'll just put a post up, video post that poses the question, is this the best job in the world? And that usually gets people inquiring and engaged. If this, we'll wonder what the best job in the world is, what could that be? So the ads that go up around, is this the best job in the world? They look good and they're kind of provocative, so people burrow into it. They hear that, for me as a uni student or someone who's trying to do something, but I haven't quite got there yet, and I need a job, a part-time job, wow, what could the best job in the world be? And here's a place that's celebrating ownership and certain things that I can connect with, and I can jump around with people for a job, and I can play with customer service, and I might be able to travel.
Oh, you've got them. At that point, they're in. There's a queue of 1,000. Listeners, I'm talking to Ant Morell, who is one of the founders of Bounce, an amazing indoor playground. No, that's unfair. An indoor trampolining concept that is so much more than that. And we talk a lot on this show about customer experience, and you've given us some insight into the Bounce customer experience so far. But I know you have another philosophy, one of many, which is principles, not scripts, for your staff. What's that about?
Yeah, and that works very well with our sort of business, whether that's the way we talk to someone at reception, whether it's the way we talk to someone if they're doing something that we think is a bit unsafe and needs to be discouraged, or whether it's the way we are on the phone. If you go to the trouble of hiring people who have, spirit and something about them, we think giving them a script basically turns them into a bit of a robot. And one of our internal mantras is to rage against the robot. So if we give someone the principle of what we're trying to convey, there's loads of those, the AAA principle is if someone's upset about something, acknowledge, apologise and act, take responsibility on behalf of the business. So if we give them those sort of principles, they'll be able to find the words that make them feel they're being themselves and that can navigate the situation, whether that's to sell someone a birthday party or whether that's to send someone a few passes because the experience they had didn't live up to their expectations. They can find their own words to do that, and that sort of empowers them as well.
Nice. I like that. So all of a sudden they're bringing their own personal brand to the Bounce brand, and when the two mix, you got the magic, right?
Yeah, unlocks a bit of pride and ownership and all that sort of stuff, and lets them make a connection that's real rather than there's something about those robotic rote sentences that switches you off, I think.
Well, people get it. I was only listening to another podcast the other day, which is all about radio. This guy interviews famous radio people from around the world about how they got to where they are and, some of the key success principles. And one of them made a really good point about the minute you start talking like a DJ, using words like, coming at you,
Hot diggity.
Yeah, that's right, hot diggity. We've got the coolest song coming up after this break. As soon as you do that, you're not human because you wouldn't do that in front of your mates, right? So why do
That's
it here?
right.
And similarly for Bounce, it's about being yourself. It's about embracing that. So tell me, let's talk marketing. It's a marketing show.
Yep.
The best marketing is the best product is the best marketing, right? So you're working very hard at that aspect of your marketing to make sure that the service and the customer experience and everything you deliver on site is amazing and gets talked about. What other marketing do you do for Bounce that really works?
Yeah, so you're right at the start. So obviously a challenge with something like us is, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people have been to Bounce, and that was one of the things we spotted early on. Everyone's running around town saying, oh, wow, I've been to Bounce, and a little bit of an alarm bell went off for us saying people talking past tense here. So first thing is to get a really clear narrative internally around what everybody's job in marketing is, and everybody has a marketing job. So we shifted. We have an ideology internally around, I go to Bounce, and everybody contributes to that. So the best marketing, as you said, is the best product. So we've got quite a specific set of innovation filters that tell us what we should be creating. So stuff where there's progression. You can master it. It's anchored in something that already exists. It's about being powered by self. There's a handful of things that tell us how we should innovate, and we have a motto around keep it fresh. So continuing to add new features and experiences into the venues, much like a theme park. So that the offer
Can I
remains
just
fresh.
hold that thought? I just want to explore that because I hear a lot of businesses have innovation as one of their core values, and yet it's never adhered to. It's just there as words, right? How do you make sure that your people are innovative, and when someone says, "Hey, listen, we should do a 3-level trampoline, not just or whatever the idea is," how do you not just let that be words and be passed on, never to be heard of again, but actually considered and maybe actioned?
Yeah, I think a key thing is to have it somebody's job, somebody's whole job.
Wow, that's cool.
Otherwise,
that's a good job.
It becomes, if it's not someone's whole job, you get consumed by the importance of solving today's problems and opportunities, but to have your eyes above the horizon for what does this place look like in 6 months, in 12 months, in 3 years. So we have a great guy, his name is Liam, who runs our innovation, and he is innovation and renovation. So renovation is just adjacent tweaks and improvements, introducing new things that can be done quite quickly, low level cost, but keeps it fresh. And then innovation is more holistic, radical changes to the venue where we literally pull out, a third of the facility and replace it with something else. So the big one for us at the moment is the X Park, which is sort of, depending on where listeners are from, kind of It's a Knockout meets Ninja Warrior with a bit of Mad Max Thunderdome parkour thrown in a blender, and you have this sort of incredible adventure challenge course, which is sort of like Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, all those sort of ideas, where it's run, jump, leap, slide, powered by self. So he's
just on Liam, unreal job. Very jealous of the fact that he just spends all day bouncing around ideas. See what I did there? Not every business can afford a Liam, and in fact, at some point, you couldn't afford a Liam. So, what did you do pre-Liam in order to make sure ideas were being floated, heard, actioned upon?
Sure. Well, I think you can't afford not to have a Liam, is what we learned. We were busy, celebrating the power of our offer whilst holding the steering wheel, and we got a very nasty fright when, year 2.5 school holidays finished. We went back to school and everyone had decided that we've done enough trampolining for a while,
right.
And we got a big shock, and I guess that's where we sort of coined the phrase habitual use. We need to create something that is about progression, coming back. I go to bounce, and I go to bounce isn't just going to be products and programs related to the trampoline. We need to seriously energize innovation, or otherwise we're like the rest of the world that you just described, where it's a big word but not a lot of big activity. And all it needs to be something that's front and central for the board, a serious individual owning it from an executive point of view, and the power base of the business in terms of the owners and the owner executives being very much hands-on and involved in that part of the business.
And the other marketing that you do, so a great product. You've touched on social media, particularly when you go to other countries. Is there any kind of other thing that's kind of really worked for you? I'm not expecting we go on.
Probably it's a bit of a cycle for us. So when we open a venue in a new territory or a new market, even a new state here, it's massively PR and social media. So we get a lot of a lot of TV stations, whether they're sports programs, the news, the Weathercross. It's a fantastic venue to kind of bring your team down and host an experience or run an episode, whether it's the project or the footy show or any of those sort of things, or the news. We get a lot of support, even current affairs programs about the great new development, which is fighting obesity and screen time and all that sort of stuff. We get a lot of PR opportunities, and we really cultivate those and leverage those. We have a lot of social media explosion, people talking about it, sharing videos, sharing photos, a lot of Instagram photo sharing. And then it becomes really important that the experience drives word of mouth. And then from a marketing point of view, it's really holistic marketing more than just comms. So it's, as the market matures, making sure that we have programs and products that really do encourage return visits to develop, whether that's a school class learning about biomechanics, or whether it's a program like Kinder Gym that we've launched with Gymnastics Australia, where it's about progression and confidence and motor skills for the very early little mini bouncers aged 3 to 5, and that we're predominantly digital, communicating directly with that audience.
What I love about all that is that I'm guessing for the size of business that you are, which is turning over what? thereabouts?
Well, if you include
Just
all of
round
the international partners, we would have turnover around 80 million this year, which is our fourth year
Mate,
of operation.
A round of applause. I think that is just absolutely fantastic. And B, I'm guessing your marketing budget as a percentage of that $80 million turnover is not as big as we may expect. You don't need to tell us what that is, but
No, it's not, actually.
It'd be relatively small because you're just creating great product, you're getting word of mouth, you're utilising things like social media, which aren't free if you do them properly, but, it's not as if you're running TV ads, right? And I just think that's absolutely fantastic. And I just want to wrap things up by you giving one great bit of advice to anyone listening who's running a small business, and which is my entire audience, and want to develop a culture like Bounce. Where do they start?
I think maybe start is the right word. You start where you started, and keep that start point as very precious. So whatever it is that is the belief, that internal fire, the belief that gave you the audacity to impose your vision on the world. That's already navigated an incredible amount of challenges. There's something in that is that's the kind of birthright of your idea, and around that is also all of the magic that attracted people to collaborate with you, to participate from a funding point of view, whether that's banks or investors, and certainly the customers that gave that a vote. I've found, certainly with us, when we've worked hard to understand what our belief is that is different and powerful and inspiring, and work out how to translate that purely into our products, into our culture, into our communications, and into our brand's reason for being, then for us that has been a shift, and the difference between we're running a business and we're going to be successful and excited about the outcomes of that, to we're running a movement that has it's almost something of a higher calling, and if that's the centre of your marketing, that unlocks many more opportunities and just a different way of looking at things. For me, that's very powerful.
I was going to finish there, but I've just been, as you're talking about that, reflecting on the fact that you are 4 years old and you are now turning over $80 million internationally. Again, that's amazing. How does it make you feel?
It feels great on so many levels. It doesn't, and as you know that you don't see a lot of that playing out in your lifestyle change or anything like that. But I think it makes me feel great that, and probably part of that success, by the way, is the fact that we've got something that its kind of time is right, that it's doing something that seems to be virtuous and valuable for many, many reasons. We're not clubbing harp seals here. We're unlocking, at a very basic level, it's healthy fun, and then at the levels or the layers that we've added to that, creating things that are proving to be inspiring for people to work for this set of ideas, and also to come into the place.
That's all very well, but do you ever sit back and go, "How good's this?"
We do. We do. We probably don't.
It doesn't
enough,
feel like
actually.
you do, and I get that because it's 4 years old. It's a new business, but boy oh boy, mate, I just think it's a really, really great case study on so many levels. So well done to you, buddy, and thank you for sharing, taking us inside the Bounce culture. And I encourage all listeners to either take themselves, their kids, or their workmates and staff, and have a bounce. Thanks, Ant.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
There you go. Ant Morell, founder of Bounce. Hey, if you've made it this far, I'll shortly share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Ant. Plus, I'm going to give a listener some ideas on how to stand out in a tired old industry. But first, here's a word from 2 businesses that want to help you build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Support for this show comes from Key Person of Influence, the world's leading business accelerator program for those wanting to be an industry thought leader. Their 5-step KPI method teaches you how to nail your pitch, publish content, productise your offer, raise your profile, and partner with performers. I asked co-founder Glenn Carlson, what's with the pee fetish?
Oh, yeah, I suppose it is a bit of a fetish, isn't it? But I guess we're just a bit obsessed. You know, fetishes, obsessions, we're just business geeks, mate. We believe there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, and we're all in. We are just all in. And if we find best practices and ideas as a result of what's working for our clients all around the world, we just want to bring it to people. And so far, the best framework that we've found to be able to do that, to really accelerate that entrepreneurial journey in the shortest time, is the 5 Ps. So, mate, get in on the fetish.
KPI, where fetishes rule. For a free hard or audio copy of their Amazon bestseller, visit keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Oh, and a little warning. Don't read it before bed. You just won't sleep. Support for this show comes from website experts Web Central. If you've ever tried to get a website designed and developed, you'll know it can be a bit like pulling teeth. Verity Ma, Web Central's Chief Marketing Officer, agrees.
It's actually very time consuming because it's not just building it and getting it live. If you want to run a successful online business, you have to also manage it, update it regularly with content, optimize it for SEO, probably run some advertising on either search or Facebook. And so that's not what really you want to spend your time doing in your business. You want to be focused on your customers and really converting those leads that you're getting from your website into true sales.
Web Central, freeing you up to focus on getting that cash register ringing. If you need your website updated, or maybe you just need a website, visit webcentral.com.au/Timbo for some exclusive listener offers. Righto, my top 3 attention grabbers from my chat with Ant Morell of Bounce. Number 1, I love the love. That's what Bounce's customer service ideology is called, if you didn't pick that up. I think having a customer service ideology is impressive. Giving it a brand name, I think, gives it just a whole lot more meaning. The love. Attention grabber number 2. Principles, not scripts. Yeah. I love the freedom Ant gives his people in order for them to offer great customer service. You know, by not demanding that they rely on scripts, I reckon it empowers them to be themselves and still deliver a great result for the customer. Another company that does that very well is Virgin Australia. Attention grabber number 3. Recruitment campaign. How good is his recruitment campaign when they go into a new country? They really do make a bit of a hoo-ha, from the initial media they generate to the actual recruitment process, which Ant refers to as a casting call, and then the 60-second speed date interviews. And the fact that they send someone over like they want to attract, you know, like attracts like. I think very, very clever. I know how hard it is attracting and retaining good people in business. I hear it all the time from listeners and business owners that I meet when speaking at conferences. So some great tips there. I'd love to know what grabbed your attention. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/333 and leave your comment in the show notes. Righto, I've got a listener question. It's from Rebecca Kouston or Kouston, one of the two. Her company is thepeopleco.com.au. Beck says, ahoy, Timbo. Ahoy, Beck. Where do I start? She says, I'm totally fangirling over here, even sending you this email. Love a bit of fangirling. So I'm starting a business dedicated to providing HR support to small regional businesses in Victoria and New South Wales. I truly believe that all small businesses can achieve growth by making an investment in developing their people. Well, that's true. Certainly Ant from Bounce believes that. This is where my passion lies. I also do all the usual compliance work, policies, procedures, awards, etc., etc. The thing is, I have all this amazing marketing gold. Oh, I like the word gold. That is really only impressing my nearest and dearest that have signed up to my mailing list so far. they're not going to buy my service. Okay, so we've got to get past nearest and dearest. Lovely that family and friends love what you do. Not going to pay the bills back. I have started creating a multitude of content. Blog posts, e-news. I'm even going to give video a crack, she says. Ready for my website, which goes live in July. Well, it's live now because it's past July and I've had a look at it. I'll have some comments about that shortly, Beck. What I'm struggling with is how do I get out to potential clients other than signing them up for my e-news? Oh, they're not interested in your e-news, Beck. Move on from that. E-news are boring. I know that's harsh. I've invested in MailChimp, so the infrastructure is there, just not the bums on the seats. I'd also be interested in your opinion on how to position myself as a breath of fresh air in the stuffy old HR industry, especially when potential clients almost expect polished corporate style HR before I even get there. But that's just not what I'm about, and the website will reflect this. Hope that makes sense, Timbo. Where do I start? Help me land client number one. Righto, Beck, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give you some tough love. Number one, add a human focus to your brand, Rebecca. Yes, I'm cross with you. You're all about people, after all. I have been to your new website over at peopleco.com.au, and there's not a person in sight. I can't see a friendly face, a smile, an introduction of staff members, some people talk, some conversation. I can't see any of it. Naughty. Introduce yourself. Do some video. If you've got some staff, introduce them. Bring that people element. You know, the stuffy HR industry aren't very good at doing this, so challenge the conventions. Number two, avoid a multitude. That was your word, a multitude of content. Just nail one content channel really well as you start up. Might be video, might be podcasting, might be blogging, might be a social media channel. Just nail one, own it, get traction, enjoy it, and then go on. I've been doing podcasting for 7 years. I do a little bit of video and blogging, but I just work at nailing podcasting, and that's worked for me. I think it can work for you. Not necessarily podcasting, Beck, but just nailing a channel. Another tip, here we go. Naughty girl, Beck, keep your social media updated. It's been over a month, and your social media icons are so obvious, top right-hand corner of every page of your website, which I think is dangerous because you're getting people to your website and then you're bouncing them off to social media. Within 30 seconds, they're going to be watching cats fall off ladders, right? So I'd lose the social media icons up the top, put them down the bottom in the footer, I should say, and then focus on being conversational on a regular basis, a daily basis, really. After all, social media is just people having conversations online. There's the people thing again, Beck. Hey? So make sure if you are going to promote all your social media channels and you've got Facebook and Insta and Twitter and LinkedIn on your website, boy, make sure they're up to date. And if you can't, then just take them off until you can. Focus on doing one thing really, really well. I hope that helps, Beck. Thanks for fangirling me. Love a bit of fangirling action. That didn't come across very well, did it? But you know what I mean. And hey, listeners, if you've got a mark time feedback that you'd like answered, you can either leave a listener review on iTunes and put your question in there. I'd love it if you did that. Or even better, join the Small Business Big Marketing Forum over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. It's a pittance a month, and I'm in there answering your marketing questions along with some really, really dedicated other business owners from around Australia and the world, and we're all there to help each other. Get your marketing questions answered once and for all over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Righto, listener feedback time. This was left on iTunes. It's from Flutterbell, Flutterbell78. Business Development 5 stars is the headline. Timbo's podcast is a refreshing and entertaining listen. Oh, thank you. Offering marketing gold in every episode. Have your notepad and pen ready to take notes, as there are little gems of advice and ideas in every episode, even if it's not in direct relation to your industry. Absolutely. Don't ever just think because I'm interviewing someone not in your industry that there's not going to be some gems, some gold dripping from your speakers. There will be, because my guests are good. As a third-generation member of our 66-year-old family business, I'm looking for ways to take our business into the future by staying true to our heritage, but also growing in a way that helps us keep current. Well, that is a challenge, but not insurmountable, I would suggest, Flutterbell. Listening to this podcast is part of my work routine, and I've picked up many great ideas from Timbo's guests. Keep up the great work, Timbo. Hey, Flutterbell, I love your work. Thank you. And may that family business of yours go well beyond 3 generations. Well, that almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. No guest next week? You're stuck with me for a whole episode. Yeah. As I share my key learnings from the AusPod 2016 podcasting conference I attended recently at the ABC headquarters in Sydney. It was excellent. There were some highs and there were lows, okay? But I'll share it all next week. Hey, do you remember that chat I had with Mia Friedman of Mamma Mia? You may not, because it was actually 230 episodes ago. Yeah, quite a while. So you'll only remember it if you're a long-time SBB-emmer. But it was an absolute ripper as she explained how she's gone about building Australia's biggest network of women bloggers. And boy, has she gone on to do some really big things since that interview. Here's Mia talking about how being the single point of failure is never a good idea in any business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's interesting, I've always been very, very clear about what I'm not good at and also just what I'm not interested in. Like I'm very, just very clear. And I tend to be not good at the stuff I'm not interested in. So that's no coincidence. But, having him spearhead that, and we had to have some pretty tough conversations because it was things like, babe, you're the single point, no business can have a single point of failure, and you are the single point of failure of Mamma Mia. It currently is. And like, oh yeah, I can get that. But when you're that close to it and you're that absorbed in the minutiae, it's really, really hard to make those calls yourself.
To hear my full interview with Mia, plus hundreds more, head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or subscribe free on iTunes. I'd love it if you did that. Hey, I'd also love to hear from you, so feel free to flick me an email to tim@timreid, reid.com.au, or hit me up on Twitter @TimboReid. There's even a Small Business Big Marketing Facebook page, where I share the lighter side of marketing. Join that as well. Be sure to grab a free hard copy of the Key Person of Influence book over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo, but only if you want to become more visible, valued and connected in your industry. And remember, you are who Google says you are. So be sure to visit webcentral.com.au/Timbo if you'd like a custom website built and managed for you. Or maybe you just like your current one brought into the 21st century. I don't know. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then go and pay it forward by letting another business owner know about it. But until next week, I'm Timbo Reid, always have been, always will be. Thanks for listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.